So welcome to Miko Japan, and it's 1st of August and a very hot typical summer's day, and inside the fish house there we're looking at 40 degrees at the moment air temperature. Now it is intentionally that high, basically because the water temperature we're currently running at between 24 and 25 degrees. Now typically speaking, in fish houses in this area, surrounding areas, is actually quite a lot warmer than this. The temperature here is about 4 degrees or so colder or cooler than surrounding Hiroshima areas, because Sera in itself is on higher ground, as it were. So consequently the fish house temperature runs better, or to my mind it does. Now it's quite typical for breeders' fish houses to hit 30 degrees, which realistically is, to my mind, a little bit too warm, because the metabolism of the koi is very high, so the fish grow jumbo really easily, but the appetite at that temperature falls off, so the fish don't actually eat enough food to sustain the metabolic growth that they're getting. So it wouldn't normally stay at this temperature in the ponds with that kind of air temperature in the fish house, but what we have got here, which we're using to our advantage, is really nice borehole water. So that borehole, as I've mentioned before, is coming from 83 meters down. It is very nice water for koi. It's got literally 0 bacterial count, 0 E. coli count on it, and a very nice balance for raising koi. Now we actually use that on the 60-ton pond. We're running in 6 litres per minute of fresh water on that pond, and on the smaller pond, 37 tons, we're running in 4 litres a minute on that pond. So that water's coming out of the borehole at 16 degrees all year round, or between 15 and 16 degrees. So we're using that water to our advantage to keep the temperatures down during the summer months. So it's because of that throughput of nice water that we can keep the temperatures at the range that we want without that amount of water. And a lot of breeders don't really have this amount of water, which obviously will be left with, it will be less water when there's subsequent fish houses built. It will be divided up a little bit more. So yeah, it's quite typical for breeders to run higher temperatures than this, but we are using this water to our advantage to keep the fish house temperatures down, and that does work really well. Now we've got, as you can see, the shading at the moment is partially closed, so that actually is more so, not so much for temperatures, but it's to stop the fish from seeing too much sun, too much strong sunlight, and getting colour damage. So that's the reason why the curtains are partially closed. Now if we didn't have the influx of new water that we've got, we would suffer with the temperatures getting too high, which is quite a common problem in Japan. And if the temperature does start getting up around 30 degrees, you do suffer with the fish getting too slim, growing too fast, but not eating enough because of the lower appetite levels, lower oxygen level. So we're in a very good position with this. Now it kind of begs the food for thought about global warming, and it's something that I've never been sure is really an issue or not, but talking to the likes of Muraoka-san, where our mud pond is, he's talking about where he lives in that house next to the mud pond, that in days of old, like when he was young, he didn't need air conditioning. He said that the temperatures were much cooler in his house, where the wind was kind of, or the breeze was blowing through his house, and also the mud pond temperature itself was cooler as well. But he said that over the years, he reckons that the temperatures of his house and the mud pond has risen by about 5 degrees. So it kind of does beg the thought process of, how does this really fare for koi in the future? And I don't really know the answer to that either, because At the moment we can control things very well with this fish house. The mud pond is really beyond our control. At the moment the mud pond works really well, but we don't really know where the future lies with that. It's possible that in years to come the temperatures might rise too high and the mud pond becomes unusable. That I don't know. Or is it also possible that over the coming years, if the temperatures do warm up year by year, is it possible that koi that are bred in Japan and raised in Japan will actually slowly adapt to that? Will they adapt to using lower oxygen levels in higher temperatures and still keeping up enough energy to actually have the appetite that they would have in cooler water? Or will it be the case that with the higher temperatures the fish simply won't keep enough body weight and will kind of suffer as a result? I really don't know the answer to that, but it's certainly something to think about. I think in the Western world, or certainly in the UK, I think if the temperatures come up, I think it's certainly nothing to really worry about, because I think people in England, they'll just think, oh well, our pond now has got free heating. But in countries like Japan, it is possible that it become too hot. And certainly I think in other countries like Indonesia, places like that, Singapore, other countries are in a position already where, well, they have been historically, where the climate's not really so well suited. And those countries, if people are serious about keeping koi, they need to use water cooling systems, basically like chillers, if you like. And of course not everyone can do that. In the UK people are using boilers to raise the temperatures, but in Indonesia some people, like I say, are using chillers to pull the temperatures down and control it. But either way, in either extremity, it's not really a cost-effective option for people in any country. So something to think about for us. I can just feel happy in knowing that we can use it to our advantage with these fish, raising these fish. So fingers crossed, for years to come we can continue to control it with the shading system, the opening sides of the fish house, and the such like of new cooler incoming water to help control the temperatures. Maybe it's enough, who knows. But certainly I think in my lifetime, as much as that might seem somewhat selfish, in my lifetime I think it's not really going to be a concern, but in future generations, who knows. So yeah, August, koi are feeding well, koi are growing well, and who knows where these will be in the autumn, but certainly hoping for some very big Nisai and Sanzai in here, and some very big jumbo koi in the 60-ton pond. So far, so good. Water's slightly green in this pond. I've actually just put the UV on this pond. Just starting to go slightly green. We have been running with the UV off recently, but that's actually because of one of the UV ballast units failing, not because of intention of not running UV. So I should have some new UV ballast arriving hopefully in the next few days, and when that happens I shall get back on track with water where we can actually see the koi, rather like this pond. Thank you for watching. See you again in a day or two.